We have a follow-up story tonight on a little girl who was severely burned about a year ago, 4-year-old Isabella Ibanez. She's made a remarkable recovery. Doctors say, in fact, she's a walking miracle.
Our Rudy Trevino spent some time with her and her family and reports how the incident, albeit tragic, has brought the best out of her.
These are some of my toys.
August 1st of last year was a nightmare for the family of Isabella Ibanez. On that day, tragedy struck this family, forever changing their lives and that of their 4-year-old daughter. 3 months of intensive hospitalization at the Shriners Hospital in Galveston produced one miracle after another.
That was my birthday up there at my house.
Today, this little angel has become an inspiration for not only her family, but for all who come in contact with her.
Physical scars are just scars. It's what's inside of her.
The most recent encounter happened at the mall recently.
We were at the food court, and she saw 2 police officers, and she ran up to them right off the bat, gave them a hug.
Her family tells me Bella has an affinity for first responders.
They came up to us and told us that they would like to take her to Build-A-Bear and get her a stuffed animal. And we said, sure, I mean, that would be nice. And we explained to them the situation and how she gravitates to first responders.
It is, says her father, as though there is an invisible bond between them.
Ever since her accident, they're like her best friends.
Officers Jesse Cruz and Luis Rodriguez made that moment for Isabella extra special, making friends for life. Mr. Ibanez wanted to share that special moment.
I felt that if other people knew how kind and how friendly they are, and they use their own money. They didn't have a special fund, they didn't have anything. They did it on their own.
Her father believes she will have a special purpose when she grows up, among them, to inspire.
I believe she is going to educate people for burn victims, kids. She is just so outgoing.
It is the spirit of the season, and for little Isabella, she hands out hugs and smiles and love.
These 2 police officers didn't know us, didn't know about her, didn't know anything. They just saw a 4-year-old little girl run up to them and give them a hug. That's all she knew, nothing but goodness.
Rudy Trevino, 3 News.
Wow, such a beautiful story.